In July 1797, now a Rear Admiral of the Blue, Nelson was tasked by Earl St Vincent with a special mission to the island of Tenerife. These events would prove catastrophic for the new admiral. In order to disrupt the Spanish war effort and thereby create a chance of peace with Spain, an attack was ordered on Santa Cruz. The intelligence said that the port was poorly defended and that there was a treasure ship moored there. To deprive the enemy of the port and the treasure would greatly weaken the Spanish position, and as reluctant allies of the French, the balance may be tipped in favour of the British. Nelson planned the assault carefully. He took counsel from his fellow officers and formulated the best tactics by using their insight and his own thoughts. This once again demonstrates one of the essential differences that singled Nelson out as a new style of commander. He listened to his fellow officers and involved them in the planning of operations. He made sure that they completely understood the intelligence and what was expected of them. His was no dictatorial command. He expected and encouraged his juniors to use their own initiative in order to accomplish the collective goal. The first attempt at attack took place on the night of the 22nd of July, and despite all of the careful planning, the elements were against them. Captain Trowbridge and his landing party were defeated by the weather. Adverse winds and strong currents swept the British away from the port. Captain Trowbridge decided that too much time and effort would be taken in fighting against these elements for the operation to be successful. Trowbridge's decision, taken alone and in the field, further demonstrates the confidence that Nelson's officers had in their commander to act on their own initiative. This decision had robbed the British of the element of surprise. The Spanish defenders now knew that they were likely to be attacked. A further attempt was made later that day but was fought off by the defending Spanish soldiers. The question now was, with the element of surprise gone and the Spanish on high alert, should Nelson withdraw? He decided against it, and on the night of the 24th of July, a third attempt was made. Of this decision, Nelson later said, "My pride suffered." It was a disaster. Men were once more embarked into the small boats that would carry them to Santa Cruz. And despite his reservations about the operation, Nelson took the decision to lead the attack himself. The able Spanish commander, General Antonio Gutierrez, was well prepared. He had positioned his troops and lay in wait for the British to return. The attackers were cut down by cannon and musket fire, and Nelson himself, when about to leave the boat that had carried him to the shore, was hit in the elbow by a musket ball. The force of the impact knocked him back into the boat, and it is very possible that without the quick thinking of his stepson, Midshipman Josiah Nisbet, he would have bled to death. Nisbet applied a tourniquet to stem the bleeding, and the Admiral was carried back to his flagship, where his right arm was amputated just above the elbow. Nelson understandably never forgot the feel of the surgeon's knife that night, the cold metal cutting into his flesh, and as a result of his own experience, he ordered that in future all surgeons under his command must warm their instruments before operating. Nelson had been defeated, and the casualties were high. The hero of Cape St Vincent had met with a worthy opponent and had paid the price. He was in despair. Writing to his commander, using his left hand for the first time, he said, "I am become a burden to my friends and useless to my country. A left-handed admiral will never again be considered as useful." This despondency did not last long. However, the healing of his wound did, and Nelson returned to England to recover.